breaking developments are unfolding right now, sending shockwaves across Africa. Burkina Faso's revolutionary head of state, Captain Ibrahim Traore, has issued what analysts describe as one of the boldest ultimatums seen in modern African diplomacy. In an unexpected and dramatic move, Traore has publicly confronted Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni with a demand that has stunned diplomats and observers worldwide. He has called for the immediate release of opposition figure Bobi Wine, warning that failure to comply would trigger consequences capable of reshaping relations between East and West Africa. This is not speculation. This is happening now. And what unfolds over the next 72 hours may permanently alter the political landscape of the continent. Stay with me, because what comes next may leave you shaken. For those joining us now, here's why this moment is so volatile and why global attention is fixed on Africa. Captain Ibrahim Traore, the 35-year-old military leader who assumed power in Burkina Faso in September 2022, has emerged as one of the most vocal symbols of a new Pan-African generation. Since rising to power, he has expelled French troops, openly criticized Western control of African resources, and inspired millions of young Africans frustrated with decades of entrenched leadership. On the other side stands Uganda's President Yoweri Museveni, among Africa's longest-serving leaders, ruling since 1986. Caught between them is Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu, globally known as Bobi Wine, a popular musician-turned-politician and the leading face of youth-driven opposition in Uganda. Bobi Wine has been arrested repeatedly, allegedly abused in custody, and subjected to what human rights groups describe as sustained repression for challenging Museveni's long rule. Until now, most African heads of state avoided commenting on Uganda's internal affairs, following the long-standing norm of non-interference. That silence ended just 48 hours ago when Traore broke ranks in a dramatic fashion. Sources close to Burkina Faso's presidency say Traore convened an emergency press briefing at the presidential palace in Ouagadougou. What followed sent shock through diplomatic circles and left Ugandan officials scrambling. In a forceful 20-minute speech, Traore declared that Africa's rising generation will no longer accept the imprisonment and silencing of leaders who speak for the people. "We have stayed quiet for far too long," he reportedly said with firm resolve. "We have watched as outdated systems crush those who dare to imagine a better Africa. Today, I speak not only for Burkina Faso, but for millions of young Africans who are tired of seeing their voices destroyed." He then turned directly toward President Museveni, and the tone intensified. According to transcripts obtained by our sources, Traore stated, "President Museveni, you have a decision to make, and you have 72 hours. Free Bobi Wine and end the persecution of Uganda's democratic voices, or face consequences that will isolate your government from the new Africa taking shape." Witnesses say the room fell silent. Few expected such a direct challenge, especially from a young West African leader confronting one of East Africa's most established power centers. But Traore has never followed conventional scripts. Within hours, the statement spread rapidly online, with the hashtag #FreeBobiWine now trending in more than 30 African nations. Dr. Amora Okoro of the Pan-African Institute for Strategic Studies told us, "This is unprecedented." Traore has shattered a long-standing code of silence that shielded authoritarian behavior across the continent. Still, critics remain skeptical. Professor James Komati of the University of Nairobi questioned whether Traore holds real leverage, noting Uganda's military strength and international alliances, while Burkina Faso continues battling insurgency at home. He warned this could be symbolism rather than actionable diplomacy. Uganda's response was swift and defiant. In a sharp statement, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs declared that Uganda is a sovereign nation and will not accept directives from foreign leaders. To grasp why this clash matters, we must understand Bobi Wine's role. Raised in Kampala's poorest neighborhoods, Bobi Wine became a national music star by addressing poverty, corruption, and injustice. His leap into politics electrified Ugandan youth, and his 2021 presidential run inspired millions despite international observers describing the election as deeply flawed. Since then, pressure on Bobi Wine has intensified. His concerts were banned, his movement restricted, and his supporters arrested. Just weeks ago, he was detained again while attempting to organize a rally, accused of inciting violence without presented evidence. Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch have documented what they describe as systematic repression, warning of shrinking democratic space in Uganda. For Traore and many young Africans, Bobi Wine represents more than one man. He symbolizes resistance against entrenched power and the cost of challenging it. Traore's ultimatum speaks to generational freedom, not just a single prisoner's fate. So what consequences is Traore signaling? Our investigation suggests he has quietly coordinated with a bloc of younger leaders across West and Central Africa, informally dubbed the New Guard, including figures from Mali, Guinea, and potentially Niger. One proposed step involves pushing for Uganda's suspension from key African Union bodies pending democratic reforms, a move that could damage its continental influence and peacekeeping revenues. Another measure involves economic pressure, with discussions reportedly underway to reroute regional trade corridors around Uganda unless reforms occur. Perhaps most striking is a planned continent-wide youth mobilization campaign involving protests, social media actions, and appeals to international bodies, designed to make Bobi Wine's detention politically costly. Global powers are watching closely. Western governments have long criticized Uganda's democratic decline while maintaining aid. Traore's move complicates that balancing act. China, invested in both countries, has urged dialogue, while Russia may see mediation opportunities amid its growing African footprint. Yet the most significant reactions are unfolding on African streets. Youth activists across Accra, Lagos, Nairobi, and Johannesburg have rallied in solidarity. Many say this is no longer just about Uganda. Older generations express concern over sovereignty, highlighting the tension between Pan-African unity and national autonomy. Historically, Africa has faced similar crossroads, but this moment feels different. The generation Traore represents grew up connected, informed, and unwilling to accept inherited systems. Scholars argue this challenge targets governance models themselves, not merely leadership changes. As Traore's 72-hour deadline approaches, outcomes range from compromise to escalation. Whether Museveni concedes, resists, or an unexpected development shifts the narrative, the broader questions remain. Can African leaders hold each other accountable? Can democracy advance without violent rupture? This ultimatum is about far more than one confrontation. It tests whether African solidarity means action instead of silence. The countdown continues. A young revolutionary has challenged a political titan over the fate of a musician-turned-activist symbolizing millions. What happens next will shape history. The continent is watching. The world is watching. And somewhere in Kampala, Bobi Wine is watching too, waiting to see if this moment finally brings change. Now I want your thoughts. What should Traore do when the deadline expires? Will Museveni yield? And what does this moment mean for Africa's democratic future? Share your views, spread the word, and stay tuned as events unfold. History is moving. The clock is ticking.